overall, I like this one. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Joe. It's first time here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And, of course, I hope your workouts are going well this week. And we have a new review for you today. It is Alec Enkiri's 16-week intermediate program, his training template that you can buy off of his website. And like I said, overall, I actually like this one because it's programmed quite well. Now, having said that, there are a few areas that I have some feedback with, but we'll get into that. Now, the program itself, like I said, it's 16 weeks. It's broken up into 2 phases, all right, each one 8 weeks long. In the first phase, overall, the volume is higher, and then in the second phase, the overall volume decreases, along with the exercises can change. I'll get into in just a minute what I mean by can change. But the intensity overall also does increase in that second phase as well. Now, the 8th week is a deload. It's good that he has that in there, and I think it's programmed well for him putting in there. So I give him kudos for that. And it's an upper-lower type of split. Okay, so you're getting your upper body twice a week and your lower body twice a week as well. And the way he has it overall programmed, the structure for each day is it starts off with primary exercises and then goes into more accessory work later on. So you're building up a lot of strength, but also trying to put on a bit of muscle, or a good amount of muscle with this program as well. It's his main overall goal. All right, and the way, again, he has a program that I think is quite good. But before I get into the programming itself, mention here, it does include a manual to explain the program. Overall, I think the manual was okay. It provided a good explanation for everything from, basics for the program, what it is and how to follow it. And it also goes into good detail, very good detail on the progression that it follows. It's linear periodization. That's what this program follows, okay? And it explains exactly the progression of the percentages that you're using for your primary lifts, right? That's how you determine the weights for your lifts. A lot of them, the primary lifts, that is, like your squat or your bench or your deadlift or some of those variations, right? It provides the percentages for you, okay? So it explains all of that, and it also explains each session in detail. So exactly the exercise that you're going to be doing and how to pick the weight for it, and a little explanation of why you're doing it that way. But getting into the program itself, all right, when you get it, guys, you are also given a nice template to keep track of everything. It was actually done by one of his subscribers, and I think overall he did a really good job with it. The subscriber that did this template, it keeps track of everything for you from week to week, including not only the weights that you're using, but showing you the sets and the reps and all that sort of stuff, right? And you are supposed to know what your 1 rep max, or around an estimate of what your 1 rep max is, so it can help you determine which weights to use based on those percentages that he programs into this, right? And he explains in the manual there how to determine what your 1 rep max is. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to actually test a specific one or your direct 1 rep max, right? He does explain how you can go about determining what it is. Now, in this template, you also have the exercise selection. So on the first sheet there, you actually pick which exercises you're going to use for each session. And this is the exercises are going to use throughout the progression of the program itself. The first phase, and then you pick the exercises that you want to do for that second phase. It's important to note here that the primary exercises, like mainly your compound lifts, those stay the same no matter which phase you're in, all right? The first phase, and then it stays the same in the second phase. It's mainly more your accessory work or accessory exercises that will change in the second phase. However, you do not necessarily have to change it. So if there's a specific accessory work exercise that you like doing in that first one, and you felt it was making good progression, you have more left in the tank, you can still choose it in that second phase, okay? He still gives you the full option for choosing which exercises you want to do. It's mainly those primary exercises that stay the same, but you can still choose to keep the same ones for that second phase if you want to. Again, the main thing that's changing in that second phase is overall volume, which is decreasing, and intensity is going up, okay? He's really emphasizing and increasing your overall strength in this second phase. If you wanted to change things up a little bit on some of those lifts, or mainly those accessories, you can, absolutely. And he explains this again in the manual. But like I said, overall, guys, the way he has it programmed, once you get that exercise selection done, is good, right? It follows linear periodization, like I mentioned. It follows the correct percentage increase over time, good progressive overload. And the exercise overall, in what he has it in the order, overall is good as well. So the way he has it, again, is on that lower body day, that first one, you'll start with a primary exercise, which may be a squat or barbell squat or some form of squat variation. Then he goes into an Olympic or explosive or power type of movement. And then after that, you're going into a bit more accessory type work. You might have one more primary exercise in there. And, you know, overall, that's the type of structure that it's following. And it includes the upper body days as well. So overall, he does it quite well. Okay, I like the programming that he did with this. Having said all that, guys, like I said, there is some feedback I do have with this, and this is going to help determine some more detail in this review. The first feedback I have here is the fact that the manual he includes with this needs more detail with it. All right, huge chunk of it is taken up by the progression, how that works, along with how each session works. Those are both really good things. He needs to overall, though, include more detail on how the program works, the basic exercise principles, why he designed it this way, all right? It just needs a lot more. He provides the basics of explanation for the program. It just needs more, okay? A good example of this is Jeff Nippard's manuals. He should be aiming for something kind of like that. The other thing here is that exercise selection, okay? He gives you the choice to choose which exercises you want from a drop-down menu, but he doesn't really explain on how to determine those exercise selections, on how to choose those. He briefly mentions that you should choose the one that you want to focus on. That's mainly for the primary exercises, okay, but determining which accessory work you want to work on, you know, he just needs a lot more explanations for this, okay? So a lot of you may not necessarily know exactly which one you want to work on, or if you do, you still may not necessarily know how to determine which exercises will be best for you specifically, okay? He just needs an overall better explanation for that. And, you know, like how I mentioned for other programs in the past, they need an explanation on how to make exercise substitutions. This one, he needs an explanation on how to determine which exercises to pick. Needs a full section on that in the manual. Now, when it comes to the exercise selection itself, this can lead to some issues here or there, specifically like an exercise order or some other type of issue. So let me explain a bit here. On one of those lower body days, okay, if you pick the certain exercises, it may lead to actually a little bit of imbalances where there's not enough posterior chain involvement with this. Okay, so like on that first upper body day, you might choose some posterior work like a hyperextension or a glute ham raise or something like that, but then it could lead to, on that second upper body day, not getting much posterior chain involvement other than maybe like a trap bar deadlift if that's what you choose. So this could end up being very heavily quad dominant and not enough posterior chain involvement, which is immensely important to do, okay? There's some focus on the glutes. There's a direct glute involvement for an exercise that you choose on one of those days, okay? And then, yes, on another day or that same day, you can choose an RDL, but some of you might end up only choosing that one specific day to have posterior chain involvement and the other day not so much. Okay, so you need to look at this very carefully, and this again goes back to how to determine and providing an explanation for those exercise selections that he should have included. Another issue this could lead to is exercise order. Okay, and going back to that, say, that lower body day, this could lead to, and one thing he has at the end is at the very end, he has you picking either the leg press, hack squat, or one of those type of variations, okay? There's nothing wrong with that, but doing a leg press or hack squat at the very end after everything else you did it's a tough order, okay? It's a tough thing to do, especially with a higher volume in that first phase. That's a bit tough to do at the very, very end. So instead of choosing a hack squat or a leg press, maybe you should have given you the choice for maybe a little bit more isolation type work. like a leg extension or something like that, or even a walking lunge, and you can do that with just body weight. That would be a decent one to finish with in that particular case. Okay, and this is a bit of an issue because some of you will have a good idea on how the program, in terms of the exercise selection, what it'll lead to, whether it'll lead to a good order or overall no issues. Someone with my background and experience would know on which ones to select, not only would work for me, but also wouldn't lead to some of these imbalances or other issues. Okay, but a lot of you who are seeing this, who see this program, may not know this, and just pick kind of what you think would be good to work on, not knowing that it may lead to some of these basic issues. Okay, it's not the biggest deal in the world. All right, overall, even if you did something random with the exercise selection, it would still be a pretty decent program. But again, it goes back to providing more explanations in the manual on that exercise selection so it doesn't lead to some of these issues. And the last thing I want to go over for feedback here, guys, is on the lower body day, the first one, a very specific exercise selection that you can choose, which is an Olympic lift variation for that power or explosive movement. Okay? There's nothing wrong with the Olympic lifts. They're very effective for developing power and explosiveness. The issue here, though, is that they're highly technical when it comes to technique, and they're extremely difficult to actually get right. The only way you can truly actually get that right is if you're getting coached by an Olympic level coach who's versed in the Olympic lifts very well. And even Olympic level athletes who do these lifts, all right, sometimes get the technique wrong, or it still takes them a long time to actually get it right. All right, there's been some athletes who describe that it's taken them 10 years just so they can get 2 or 3, say, power cleans in a row, consecutive reps in a row, correct, with correct form in those consecutive lifts, okay? So I'm not a huge fan of him including the Olympic lifts in this regard, the power snatch or the power clean. The high pull that he includes there, if I had to choose an Olympic lift or variation of it, that's the one I would choose because it's the one that you're least likely to screw up. All right, and it's the easiest one of those 3 to learn and get right. But even then, I would still choose the other type of power movements that he has. All right, and like a carry or a weighted sprint or something like that. Just keep this in mind, all right? If you've never really done the Olympic lifts before, if you're not that versed in them, or if you've only done them a few times, and you don't have access to a coach who is well versed in these lifts and can help you out, I wouldn't choose an Olympic lift, all right? That's just me, okay? I've coached athletes before in the Olympic lifts. All right, I am actually certified by the USAW in teaching these Olympic lifts, and even then, I rarely would ever have them or coach somebody in doing the Olympic lifts because, again, how difficult it is to get somebody to do it right. And there's a ton of other movements, from plyometrics to ball throws to a bunch of other things that will aid in explosiveness and power almost just as effectively, okay? So that's my main other thing. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about. So overall, guys, like I said, I like the program. I think it was done really well. He provides good explanations on the progression and how to do a session and a ton of other things, all right? The exercise selection he has overall is good. Just needs some explanation on it, all right? And then some of the other things I mentioned. So the score I'm giving this one, guys, is a 9 out of 10. Done well. Just needs more explanation. Some of the exercise selection can lead to a little bit of issue. So those are my main thoughts when it comes to this program from Alec, all right? I like it, just need to keep some things in mind. All right, guys, so that is it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll have more reviews coming up, and I will see you guys next week.